The following feature has been rated G by the Motion Picture Association of America.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard me complaining about the weather all season. And right now, we have our first sort of snowfall. Actually, we're driving out of the snow. We hit a little bit of a squall about a mile back, and now as we're driving closer to home, it's turning to rain, so I guess this video is quite ineffective. But back there is snowing. Yeah, I swear. And back there is goofball. Yeah. Okay. What's up, guys? Jason, New Age Revolution. Down here in the cave, just cleaning all the schmutz off the top of my can here. It's a rainy / snowy Sunday afternoon here in Rochester, New York, and I'm drinking something awful, something horribly awful called Southern Tier from the Southern Tier Brewing Company, which is actually a local brewery, not super local, but a brewery that I assume is about 3 hours away. It's still in New York, but it's really bad, and we have a there goes the sponsorship. We have a deli in town that must get these ridiculous wholesale deals on beer. And they sell kind of the leftovers for extremely low prices. And I was in there the other day, and they had this Southern Tier. They had a 6-pack of this Southern Tier. Actually, they had a 12-pack of this Southern Tier Session Ale with, so it's watermelon Session Ale, right? I like an occasional fruity beer. I love watermelon juice. This isn't good. It's not good. I swear to you, the 12-pack was $4.99. Right? $4.99. And it's worth every... it should be $4.99. The problem is, there's this kind of a weird tonic water aftertaste. Like, I like the watermelon flavor. It's super crisp, but then there's this weird, just this weird aftertaste. Anyway, whatever. It's not beer review time. I got this in the mail the other day, and I never showed you. It's the remote control that goes with the Scientific Atlanta cable box. And I know that I might have just brought back some memories for a lot of you. This tiny little remote. Look how beautiful. This tiny little remote with absolutely no functions on it goes with the Scientific Atlanta cable box. Anyway, we're doing a power hour. We're doing a power hour because I want to. That's why. Because I want to. Kids are playing Among Us. That is the newest download in the house. That's right. We've caught up to 2020. And we're playing Among Us. It's okay. Liam seems to like it. Seems pretty cool. Yeah, you saw the little video of snow. That's the best we got. Liam and I came out of Sunday father-son bowling league this morning at about 11:30, and there were flakes. There were flakes of falling, so we got excited. Blasted the Christmas music on the Sirius Holiday Channel, and drove through the snow, and then drove completely out of it into rain. So it was snowing in one part of town, and it was raining about 8 minutes later. But we're getting there. We're getting there. It is cold out. It is cold. I am happy. All right. If you want to be a part of the channel, go over to your email, get on your desktop, get on your Dell, your PC, your Commodore, whatever, and pull up your email, and then type an email to me at tn80rquestions@gmail.com and ask whatever you would like to know, from personal to professional, whatever that means, to toys, to the 80s, to my Double Dragon t-shirt from a man upstate Johnny, whatever. Whatever you want to know. Check out the show yesterday when we unveiled the latest XOX custom to be Iron Mike Sharp. And I didn't get a chance to mention this in the video because I didn't know, but Net sculpted that head and face herself. Net sculpted Iron Mike Sharp's head. That's not a oversized Jack's head. That's not an oversized Mattel head. That's a sculpted head. That is a one of one. That is sculpted. So Net busted out the art skills, her sculpting skills, and actually handmade us an Iron Mike Sharp face. So it's pretty great. All right, let's do it. My man Jathrash, or Jeff as he likes to be called in formal settings. Jathrash says, really enjoy your show. Here's a few questions for the Power Hour. I hope you haven't covered much of these topics before. All right. Back in time when you used to watch WWF, can you tell a story of an emotional reaction you had to a title changing hands? Did you ever jump up and down with glee? Did you ever feel shock or outrage that put you in a foul mood for days? Any specific memories? Yeah, I've told the story, but it's a good story and it's worth telling again. I was extremely excited when Hulk Hogan got the belt back from Randy Savage at WrestleMania 5. I do remember being pumped up about that. But I've told the story. I saw WrestleMania 2 at a closed circuit location. All right, so basically that means that I went to an arena, a smaller arena. It wasn't like an arena that would hold, wrestling events. It was like a what did they do there? Maybe, I don't know. What would they have? It was called the Dome Arena. It would have like smaller sporting events, smaller concerts, maybe some like craft shows or something like that. I remember they had a gun show there one year. So it was kind of like like a convention center type place, but smaller. I think back in the day, like the Syracuse Orangemen basketball team would play an exhibition at the Dome Arena, stuff like that. So anyway, we went there. I didn't get it on pay-per-view. I don't even think I had pay-per-view capabilities for WrestleMania 2. So we went to the Dome Arena, and they had it set up like a wrestling event. They had bleachers, you could sit in those seats, and then they had seats on the floor. And then in the middle, where the ring would be, they had projection screens, all four. So they had, a screen facing this way, this way, this way, and that way. So all four, right? And I saw WrestleMania 2 that way. And this is long before, like, high definition, so I can't remember the picture quality of that. I'm sure it was fine. It was good enough. But the arena acted like they were at the event. So they cheered and they booed and they probably, yelled things. Well, the British Bulldogs were taking on the Dream Team, I believe, right? Yeah, for the World Tag Team titles. And I remember my cousin who took me during the match, mid-match, wanted another beer. And so instead of him leaving me in the seat there with all the kid-touching strangers, he said, "Oh, come on, you're going to take a walk with me to the concessions." And as I'm walking to the concessions, he gets his beer. I'm walking back and I'm watching the screen, like I can see the screen because I'm 10 years old and I'm fully invested in this. And as we're walking back, it's the moment where the British Bulldogs get the pin and get the win. Well, I jumped up in the air. I jumped up in the aisle to stop and celebrate with the rest of the people. And in my excitement, in my throes of passion, I knocked Cousin's beer out of his hand and onto the floor. And I believe in that's something that you can get killed for. I believe. I didn't, find that out until much later in life. But yeah, I knocked his beer out of his head, and I'm sure that at that time the beers, were probably astronomically priced, as they are today, and he probably spent, I don't know, maybe that was the last of his beer money, and I just knocked it on the floor and destroyed it, jumping up and down because the Bulldogs won the title. On the opposite side of the coin, not necessarily a title change, but I remember reacting very angrily to Paul Orndorff turning on Hulk Hogan again in '86. It's that slow build, that horribly obvious slow build to a heel turn that Orndorff had on Championship Wrestling, drawn out over like 3 or 4 weeks. Hogan wouldn't take his phone call at the gym, and it's just so great. And then they wrestled the Moondogs, and Orndorff would not tag Hogan in. And then they took on Studd and Bundy, and Orndorff turned on him. Well, I reacted violently. I ran into my room and I ripped down I probably had like one or two, maybe two Paul Orndorff pinups on my wall. And I ripped them down and I brought them back to the living room and I ripped them up in front of my mother, tore them up angrily. And she was mad at me because she thought that they would be collector's items. So she thought that I had just ripped up my college fund right there by overreacting as a sad, angry 10-year-old and tore posters off my wall because Orndorff was a bad guy. So there's your answer. What LJN figure do you, this is also from Jathrash, what LJN figure do you recall being most excited to add to your collection? I told that story too. I would say Elizabeth. I won't tell it again. I don't know. What should I do? I mean, Jathrash hasn't heard the story. Other people have. Is it fair to not tell? I'll tell it again. I went to the mall with a childhood pal, with my pal Howie that you heard me talk about. Neither of us had any money. We went to the mall with my parents, or my mom and her boyfriend at the time or whatever, and we went to KB, and they had the usual Jesse Venturas and Greg Valentines, but on the ground was Elizabeth, one Elizabeth, and neither of us had seen this figure ever. It just wasn't. You just didn't get to the stores as a 10-year-old or whatever. And again, neither of us had any money, but Howie grabbed it first, and he was staring at it, and we were jumping up and down, and again in the thralls of passion. Is it thrall? I don't know if it's thrall. Throes of passion. I ripped the Elizabeth out of his hand, and sprinted out of the store, left the store. Clearly shoplifting. My mother and her man were sitting near the mall or near the store on a bench or something, and I went running up to them with the figure in hand, basically pleading for $10. And of course, my mother had $0, as she always did. And but boyfriend at the time, felt that was an opportunity to be the man, and he went into the pocket and pulled out a nice $10 bill, said, "Here you go, kid. I'm going to be your stepdaddy someday." And he was, actually, one of them. And then and I went in there, and much to the chagrin and the brokenheartedness of Howie, I bought Elizabeth. And so we admired her all the way home. And there's the answer to that one. Personal question, Jathrash says, with the recent talk about the possibility of World War III and Armageddon, if things get out of control in Ukraine, do you think the world leaders of today are just crazy enough to push the nuke button if push comes to shove? Is this similar to the Cold War situation from the 80s or something entirely different? Great question. I worry about a lot of things. But Armageddon and World War III or nukes or pressing the button, that one I don't worry about. I think that, and I'm not a political guy. I'm not an overly well-read person when it comes to, foreign affairs and things like that. But my thinking is if the fella in North Korea there didn't fry us, is Putin more dangerous than I was going to call him Kim Jong Un, right? If is Putin more insane than Kim Jong Un? I don't know. I probably shouldn't even say here. Yeah, I don't worry about it. I don't think it's going to go there. Was it the same as the Cold War? Well, I don't look. The beauty of being 8 years old in 1984, when the U.S. and Russia were at the height of their animosity. The joy of being 8 years old was that you had no idea what the heck was going on. And I had learned from other eras that, kids did like, nuke drills in school, hide under your desk or something like that. The Cold War never brought any of that to good old St. Pius. We never did anything like that. So I guess it wasn't that big of a threat back then either. I certainly wasn't hip to any information back then as an 8-year-old, so I just lived. And I did okay. We were all okay. Besides, Hulk Hogan was going to beat Nikolai Volkov any day of the week anyway. And Nikita Koloff was like turning good, so how bad could it be? Great questions, Jeff. Thank you for being a part of the show. Let's go with my man Brentamania. Brentamania says, what are your top 5 wrestling matches and your top 5 cartoons growing up, and any of those cartoons do your kids like? Top 5 wrestling matches, I really can't. Basically what I'll do is I'll take that question and I'll make it a show. I'll make it a Rushmore. I don't think I could rattle off my top 5 wrestling matches. I don't even know if I have a top 5 wrestling matches. I can tell you Ricky Steamboat and Randy Savage isn't on it. I haven't watched it in a long time, but I've always been like, I don't know, it's a match. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I can't answer that. I'm sorry. My top 5 cartoons. I did the Mount Rushmore with the Rushmore Show, and I did my top 5 cartoons. Certainly Hulk Hogan's Rockin' Wrestling, G.I. Joe for sure, the Muppet Babies I loved, Tom and Jerry I loved. Yeah, some of the after school deals at 4 o'clock, DuckTales and some of the Fox shows I liked as a kid. As far as my kids watching, I think I can answer that part of the question the best, but thank you, Brentamania. You're always a frequent commenter on the channel. No, I tried really hard to get, when Liam was younger, he was very much into this room, and he was very much into vintage video games. We would play a lot of Nintendo together, and he had a lot of collectibles in his. He still does. He collected Turtles. He collected some He-Man. I got him. I gave him some old G.I. Joes. He's got a lot of Ghostbusters NECA figures when he was a kid. So he started to be. I really thought that I was going to have like my little 80's partner, but since then, obviously, he's gotten into other stuff. Still likes my stuff, but he liked my stuff a lot back then, and I certainly tried to show him my cartoons. He and I watched the entire first run of the Turtles. I think there were like 9 seasons, maybe 11. I don't know, but there were a lot of seasons, and he and I watched those, and those are extremely unforgettable special memories because his mother wasn't into him watching the cartoons. He was only like 4, and she didn't want him watching them because she's a lunatic. So it was on his mind so much that he would wake up at 6:30 in the morning and he would come downstairs on the couch with me, and we would lay under the blanket and we would watch the Turtles, and when nobody was awake. The house was dark. It was dark outside. He should probably be sleeping, but he got up and he would come down and we would watch the Turtles together. And it's an unforgettable memory of him doing that almost every morning with me. He was that into it. He has seen some G.I. Joe. He has seen some Ghostbusters episodes. But other than that, he's kind of off doing his own thing. He did watch the Legend of Zelda cartoon with me. Yeah, but it's weird. Like these kids don't watch television shows anymore. They watch YouTube, which I can't really complain about because, here I am. But there is no more like, oh, it's Saturday, let's watch our shows. No, it's what's, what did the Nerf guys put up on YouTube? What's their newest episode of these awesome like Nerf collectors who just have these Nerf wars? And what's the latest fishing video, and what's the latest Minecraft playthrough? So that's kind of replacing television. And I don't know if it's a bad thing or not. I don't know. Because I don't really, like, the television options aren't that great either. So I guess I don't mind them watching guys, have these awesome Nerf battles, except that it results in me having to buy more Nerf guns for him and me. So it's fun. It's okay. So there's the answer to that, Brentomania. My man, good-looking Scott. Let's see. Did he ask me? Let's see. Yeah, he's got a couple of emails in here. So anyway, Scott, my man Scott from Australia, says, hey, Jason, thanks as always for all the entertainment you provide. I really appreciate it. Well, you're welcome, good looking. It's for you. He says, I'm pumped to have the Power Hour back in our lives, and here's a couple questions for you. Did the video store play much of a role in your childhood? Few things are as nostalgic to me as the memories of renting WWF VHS or Nintendo games from the local video store, and I'm curious to know if you had a similar experience. Absolutely. Absolutely. Check the time on this. Now we're good. The video store experience was multi-layered. There were several wonderful experiences with video stores. One I've talked about a lot. The divorced dad blockbuster relationship, which, I think most divorced dads have like a gold card at Blockbuster because, when they get you on the weekend, it'd be pizza and movies, which sounds absolutely wonderful. And it was. So I think it was probably 100% every weekend that my dad had us, we would be at the video store. And we'd be coming home with no less than 3 movies. No less. And oftentimes he would just, I would just blindly rent something. And he had no desire to review it, veto it, nothing. Sleepaway Camp 3, it's all yours, man. Have a good time. It was fine. I rented this movie called Dead Alive. No, not Dead Alive. Dead something. I don't know. Nicole Kidman was in it, I think. I don't know. Dead Calm. Why not? It's cool. I'm watching it. Yeah, and the Steven Seagal movies and the Van Damme movies and just fun. Just laying around the couch with my dad watching movies. For me, Coliseum videos, WWF Coliseum videos were huge, and then when Nintendo started hitting the video store market, it was equally huge. I remember renting WrestleMania 1 and the Wrestling Classic many, 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 many times. In fact, I rented the Wrestling Classic from one of the much later in life. I rented the Wrestling Classic probably at age 19 or so from a video store in the town that I live in now. That video store is now a funeral monument or a grave monument store, which is fitting. It's dead, and the building is now selling gravestones. So I remember renting it at 19. And at 19, if you're an irresponsible turd like I was, there's no way you're returning that video. And I don't know if I rented it with the intention of never returning it, but I never returned it. And so up until a while ago, and I don't know what happened to it, but I had a video store rental copy of the Wrestling Classic. That beautiful tournament that the WWF put out. And I would rent WrestleMania 1 all the time, and I would probably watch it, twice. When I rented, I'd watch it twice in a day. I used to love renting the Hulkamania series. I don't know why. Every match is a Hulk Hogan match, and you know who wins. So I don't know why I did that. That was, video stores were amazing. They were, it was incredible. And even as an adult, I mean, we had Blockbuster still up until early 2000s or whatever. I even worked at a video store. I worked at a video store called Video King when I was about, again, 19 or so. Was I drinking age? I don't know. I might have been 21. Maybe 20, I don't know. But I worked at a video store, and it was a blast. It was really fun. I learned the whole concept of shrink wrapping VHS tapes. Use the machine to shrink wrap it in the extremely hot hair dryer to, get a perfect little melt of the plastic. But you can never get a plastic perfect melt, so it's crinkled and curly, and you're like, whatever, put it out. And my shift was closing. I would always close, so I would work 3 to 11. And it had an adult section, and I was responsible, during my shift to vacuum the floors at night, and I would have to go into the adult section and vacuum that. And that was kind of insane for a 19, 20, or 21-year-old, I forget what I was, to go and, be there. And but what was even more interesting, was usually no fail at 10:57 p.m. on a Friday night. A fellow would walk in and walk straight back to that room and be back there for about 10 minutes, and he would come out with, a stack of movies, some to rent and some to buy, because you'd put those on sale. And he would just stand there as me and, the manager or whoever would just, boop, scan them. Okay. Oh, you like that, do you? Boop. Oh, okay. Whoa, what's happening here, dude? Enjoy, And he would say nothing. He would not make eye contact. He would take them. He would leave and have one heck of a night. So, yeah, I loved video stores. Obviously, we all did. I mean, if you're watching this channel, you love video stores. I made this. Well, I didn't make it. I kind of I made this Blockbuster case. My man Tom Strickland has figured out, he's so good with computer art and stuff. He has a template for this where he can put whatever movie you want, and you get an actual Blockbuster case or a Blockbuster insert with your movie on it, and then the description and all that. He does it. Tom Strickland does it. And, but I don't do it. I can't do it, so I just handwrite it, right? I just write Friday the 13th on there. But it's good enough for me. It just sits here on my TV. Come on. I don't have to be artistic. Yeah, video stores. The best. He says, I know you're getting back into watching movies lately. I'm curious as to whether there were favorite movies of your childhood in the 80s and whether you recall seeing any 80s classics at the cinema as a kid. Yeah, I apparently saw E.T. As a young lad when it first came out. What was that, like 82? I was in Boston having eye surgery, and my parents took me to E.T. I have no memory of it. I saw Ghostbusters 2. No, I didn't. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. You're getting your G's confused. I saw Gremlins 2 in theaters. I saw Friday the 13th, Jason Lives in theaters. I saw Rocky 4 in theaters. I saw Batteries Not Included in theaters. We weren't a theater family. We didn't go to the movies. So these are like specific movies I remember seeing as a kid. Boy Who Could Fly we saw in theaters. Favorite movies as a kid, yeah, I don't know. I loved The Never-Ending Story. I loved The Christmas Story as a kid. I would watch that. That goes back to the video store question. I would rent The Christmas Story all year and watch it multiple times a year. I didn't just watch it at Christmas time. So that was a favorite as a kid. I was always a Rocky fan. I would watch the Rocky movies as a kid. Stuff like that. Nothing really like... I did love The Boy Who Could Fly. I did love... what's that one where... not The Last Starfighter. Where the kid gets in the ship and he comes back and his parents are older and they've moved out of the house and he's got to go. The heck is that called? It's not The Last Starfighter. I don't know. You're all screaming it at me, but I can't remember what it's called. It's not The Boy Who Could Fly. But yeah, I can't remember what it's called. Were you into collecting, this is all from a man, Scott, were you into collecting sports cards or other trading cards as a kid? Yeah, I had baseball cards, I had wrestling cards. There was a period of time when I had boxing cards. I was really into boxing in like very late 80s, early 90s. I loved boxing. I'm sure I collected football cards at some point. I'm sure I had a few basketball cards. But, I like all of us, I had the tops, wrestling cards, the WWF cards. I think we all thought that we had like massive baseball card collections, and you'd get the price guide and you'd look it up, and being a dumb kid, I would like add up all my cards, and I think I had like $100 or something. When in reality that's like, okay, if you sold all those today, you'd probably get about $20 because that's not you're not going to get full value from Tony the card shop owner down the street there. And none of them were mint, and they were all a mess. But I would just like get the price guide and get Jose Canseco and go boom, mint. All right, $5, cool, mint. And the card's like, I'm not mint, But whatever, that's what we did. All right. All right. So my man says he goes serious here. This will be the last one. Yeah. Good looking Scott says, I have one more to add. It's something I've been thinking about this week, and it's a bit of a philosophical one. When you think about the awesome feeling of the 80s that we just can't replicate nowadays, how much of that can be attributed to the era itself, and how much of it comes down to the freedom and innocence of childhood? In other words, would the 80s be as special through the eyes of a teenager or adult? Yeah, look, that's the gazillion-dollar question I think that every kid of every era gets asked or thinks about at some point. Were the 80s awesome because we were kids? Quite possibly. Why do I think that? Well, because talk to somebody who wasn't an 80s kid, and they don't have over-the-top fond nostalgia of the 80s. They have over-the-top fond nostalgia of the 50s or the 60s or the 70s. You know, my dad, I'm sure, doesn't sit around and yearn for the good old days of, you know, this cable box like like I do. You know, I'm sure he couldn't care less, you know, because he was an adult in the 80s. Teenagers, I think teenagers appreciate the 80s for different reasons than kids, of course. I think teenagers appreciate the music more. I think they appreciate, you know, maybe the movies more, maybe the cars, you know. You always hear older 80s kids talking about their car. You know, they don't make them like that anymore. Maybe their work memories were more fond, you know, to them, you know, working in the mall in the 80s, or, you know, the girls and the parties and the friendships, and I'm sure all that, you know, meant more to them than obviously it did to us and to me. So yeah, I mean, I do think that there is something extremely special about our particular decade. I think we got stuff that the 70s and the 60s didn't have, but it was just enough, you know. And then it just started multiplying. I think the 90s and beyond are the eras of multiplication. It's the eras of taking something and making it better 100 more times, right? And our time was just like, cool, you know, look at this. We got the VHS. This is good. This is it. We don't need anything else ever, ever, ever. And at no point in 88 was any kid going, these things are so bulky. And with the, you know, the rewinding, and these are awful. I just wish that we could, like, skip ahead. And the picture quality on this television. I mean, good God, I can't wait for 20 years from now when we have high definition. You know, we weren't thinking like that. We weren't going, you know, this isn't any good. I can't save the game. You know, there's no cheat codes. This is no good. I can't save my stats. I don't want to do this anymore. We weren't doing that. We were like, nope, this is good. This is it. I'm happy. And then it just, you know, now my kid unwraps his PS4 at Christmas and he's already making plans for the PS5. And you know, all of us get these stupid things and we wonder, what time are we going to get in line for the next one? I wonder what the 15 is going to be. You know, so we don't savor anything anymore. And I think that is particular to our era, for sure. But yes, a lot of it also has to do with the fact that we were kids. And we had nothing to do except play and watch fun TV and eat fun food and have the best friends of our lives and just experience things for the first time. And it was beautiful. So yes, I think it's a mixed bag, as I just explained and couldn't remember to explain again. So that's it. Thanks, good looking Scott. That is the end of the Power Hour. We have several more sets of questions to go, so we're good. The Power Hour will live on. And, you know, I gave you close to an actual power 37 minutes, so that's not bad. All right, thanks for hanging out with me. We'll see you all next time. We're going to do a Wrestling with the Past this week, I promise. I promise. I do. Good night now.